Board games. Board games, we might be talking about board games, but we're not gonna shout. We are going to talk about game reviews. These are some things that Simon does, and we'll talk about demos and such, which Simon also does very much. Board games, it's what we're talking about. Board games, and I'm not gonna shout. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good whatever it is, wherever you are. 10 a.m. ish UK time for Busy Beats and Board Game Blether. And it's episode 839. Simon, Lavender, you're constantly reviewing, demoing, and sharing games. And I thought it would be nice to have you on. We've had you as parts of the Busy people. I was trying to think of an alliteration there, but struggled. But yes, it was nice to work alongside you.
Busy
And
bletherers.
I've interacted with you a lot in the past as a publisher, sending you stuff, and you are ridiculously prolific. I think that's one thing that can be said.
That's exactly your phrase used before, prolific, yeah. So yeah, since the 500th episode, yeah, there's still been daily videos, or twice daily now, since then. Yeah, so it's not been needed, but equally I've got the opportunity, I guess as people keyword there is content, and people are watching. This is past the 25,000th hour of views, I think. So people are obviously still wanting to watch stuff, whether they want to subscribe, and either whether they be drunken or otherwise in person, just tap this, as I did at Glastonbury. I remember a Scottish woman just goes up to and did this. Then, yeah, if you want to see stuff, obviously there's the notification bell, share, like and stuff. There's a playlist for Bears. There's about 98 playlists now, whether it be by designer, publisher, or anything else I think is relevant, whether it be a fun game, whether it be a party game, kids friendly, family friendly, that kind of stuff. So there's something for hopefully everybody. So lots of things to check out.
And it's really interesting because it's not just enough to make a lot of stuff. You have to do these playlists and you have to curate it somewhat so that people can find it. But before we get into all of that, what would you like people to know about you? Let's say someone's saying, hey, who is this Simon Lavender person? What's his AmassGames? What would you say to them?
So yeah, it's a hub for board games. It's a chance for people to discover something they might not have discovered, which is obviously the way with any board game. There's over 5,000 made, I think, in the States alone every year now. So in terms of just discovering something that's available for you, whether you live in the UK or elsewhere, it's something that I try to go something that could be a bit different. Yes, it could definitely be mainstream. And I try to cover that too, to say, look, this is how I would benchmark it against something else. But when there has been over 2,000 different reviews now, I'm very well able to establish what I think of something compared to something else and give you a lot of different options, considering most people, whether they be a reviewer or someone who's just very passionate, they're probably into their a few hundreds. And obviously, proportionately, I can give them a very balanced opinion on everything else. So my overall rating for a game is lower than even big reviewers, actually. But it's still something that, I can have that grounded opinion and dive into it. But yeah, very passionate. And I've even been at wakes talking about board games, obviously in a subtle way. But it's,
I mean, that feels a bit much. I mean, that feels potentially disrespectful.
No, but it was literally the case whereby I think someone introduced me to someone. And at a wake, it's a gathering of life. It's a set life, actually. And it was somebody said, how do you know them? And they said, oh, well, this person gave me Cards Against Humanity. And so what's that? I said, it's a card game, it's a board game. Oh, do you play? Oh, yes, I do. Oh, do you play Scrabble and Monopoly? Well, you can play those games, but those have player elimination and downtime, and you don't know how long they're going to take to end. Whereas modern board games are much different. And that led to, them being fascinated for a good 20 plus minutes of asking more and more questions. And that 8 million adults play every day in the UK. So even there was a deck collector who someone was speaking to, and I just happened to also then mention board games, and they said, okay, well, this payment needs to be made. But as for board games, have you heard of Ticket to Ride? And I said, yes, I have. And then we spoke 20 minutes talking about that. So it shows you how much you can steer a conversation. And I think then they subscribed to my channel as somebody else did from a bank. So it goes to show that everyone's potential subscriber, is one way of putting it, or just a closet board gamer. So yeah.
So a quick hello to Elaine. It's lovely to see you, and I hope you are generally having a wonderful day. I would like to take a step back to talk about recent highlights, living life and seeing the sights, recent highlights, playing games and other delights. Recent highlights. Myself, the big highlights of yesterday was that a couple of contracts got signed. So I did manage to sign a contract with, I'm fairly sure, well, they would like me to say, Cosmodoc is going to be printing in France. It's not going to come to the UK. It's a very strict contract. So, I mean, I'll be getting 6 designer copies, but it's a French language thing. They've done a lovely treatment on the cards, and it's got this sticker effect, which looks like it's real stickers, except it's just got a shadow on it. So that's quite cool to see. Also, Surprise Tower Games is finally going to be releasing Last Bug Standing, which has been a long time coming, partially because other things have gone in the way, there's been other priorities, and I kind of said after Spiel 2022, hey, if this hasn't come out by next year, I'm going to have to start approaching other publishers. And Alan said, yeah, that's totally fair enough. And now I've got a proper contract. So even if you're working with people that you're friends with, I think it's always worth having that.
Yep.
And so that's either going to come out by the end of next year, or the rights will revert. And of course, we're both hoping it does come out at Spiel next year. So that will be exciting to see a 2-player, almost perfect information game for people to strategize against each other. So I'm really looking forward to those things coming out. Thank you very much, Elaine. And also had a lovely conversation with Kirsten Lunde, my co-designer of a game about writing words aiming to match other folk exactly 3 times, and designer of Questable, which I am now helping to develop.
Cool.
How about you? What have you been up to?
Well, one game you want to know what I played yesterday, I played Picture Perfect for the first time. So if you want to see there's an unboxing teaser trailer preview overview video that went live on Monday. So Mondays can be quite a good day for those kind of things. I actually find it's quite a popular day typically. So yes, that'll be out as a review.
Are you willing to give us tell us?
Yeah, I'll absolutely have obviously a full review going out. Obviously, that's the first play. It's a bit fiddly initially, partially based on the standees, but very beautiful to look at and very interesting from.
And that's the one where people are arranged like a picture, and you've got to try and make sure that they're hidden behind things or out of the way or near things.
Yeah, whether it be, well, in this instance, they do have, well, male and female genders, so you might want someone sat next to someone else, so you might want to have a dog next to a palm tree and such like that. So that's how it works. So that's the basic game. I haven't played the auction game yet, but I might be doing a playthrough tomorrow evening. So that'd be interesting to see how that goes, especially from a perspective point of view, because for some of these playthroughs, I do pretty much bird's eye view. But in this case, it's probably going to be over the shoulder, just to show you that, this is what my objectives are and how that's going to keep changing. There is a bit of a memory aspect, which I know some people are a bit concerned about, because you're looking into an envelope, seeing those rules, but then you've got to put it away before you look at the next one. So you need to think, okay, well, I can satisfy 2 of those criteria. I can satisfy the next one, which I think the playthrough is going to actually help with trying to explain that. So I got that at Spiel, obviously, this year. So still working through 100 plus games that I've picked up there. So that video will be out in the next few days. So hopefully, you'll both be able to tell me what your thoughts are on that. And that's a particular one for yesterday. There are more games to be played today, which I'm going to keep a teaser back and let me know what your thoughts on those are. But that's the main one from yesterday.
So as you're in the hot seat, I would like to ask you, I mean, there's no typical day as such. Every day is different for every individual. But in the case of working out who Simon Lavender is, could you give us a rough overview of what Wednesday, the 7th of December 2022 was like, in terms of as much detail as you're willing to share?
So from a point of view of
like getting up, doing the work, arranging things, like what's logistically your life like?
So yeah, I check things such as Facebook to make sure that any kind of updates in that respect. Obviously, Instagram for any updates. I tend to tranche things, including on Facebook groups as well. So if I've just got a review out, that's when I'll put out like picture perfect and stuff, just to make sure then people can then discover the videos. Because I want it all to go through to the videos basically, because that's going to help me have one location where everyone can chat. But in terms of other things, you're going through YouTube Studio and double checking some stuff there. I was even on TikTok to amending some bits and pieces there. So lots of stuff to go through, thinking what game is going to go live today at 4 o'clock. So I've already kind of picked that one, and I've already got like the BGG page ready to paste that video. So my videos do instantly get approved now. So I don't even need to use automation. It's just, which is actually more convoluted. It literally, I'm instantly accepted, which is very, I guess, promising, and also very flattering to kind of see that now. So that's really cool. Nice. So I know not everyone gets that. I don't know where you are on that scale, but I'm very happy to see that. Also thinking about what to play today. I actually have my newsletter, which always goes out on the 4th of the month, and it hasn't gone out this month actually. Been a bit waylaid, unfortunately. So that may well go out later, relating to my November stats, which lots of people have already seen. But it's just a business-to-business email with a few hundred recipients, which I know you're on. And have a chance to kind of see, it'll be a brief one, because lots of like the retailers, they want to wait until the January one to see how has it been for the whole year. So that's been that so far. Obviously, considering, like I said, I've got a game up ready to learn to play later. So I've played solo initially, and then played multiplayer, and then again that may well be played through as a playthrough tomorrow. But making sure I've got all the tech in place so that everything's working to make sure there's no storage limits on recording, which has been a factor. But that's pretty much been it. Checking up on some WhatsApp conversations about board gaming, getting stuff ready, especially for this weekend. Again, big sessions lined up. So
so there's a lot of stuff to do with the channel, and a lot of behind the scenes stuff, and a lot of ancillary, peripheral kind of promotion-y stuff. Is this your full-time job at this point?
No, unfortunately not. No, so I'm very keen to move it in that position, but there's many factors behind that. There are obviously many reviewers out. Yes, lots of people started in lockdown, and even people who started before that, but they haven't got necessarily the views. I know lots of like media partners and PR partners. They actually want to pay me, but they can't pay me yet. So I said, don't worry about it. But equally, we've got to be aware of that. I do get so many games that I typically on various spreadsheets, which are circulated, either paid review or otherwise, and I put paid because it just whittles out a lot of the chaff. But ultimately, I'm yet to. Some of it materializes. Sometimes one place said, "Oh yeah, we'll pay you. Send us an invoice." That was last month, and I still haven't got anything after numerous chases. So equally, I've luckily held back on promoting their stuff, but this is the key window for them. Obviously, with every publisher, December is when I see a massive spike in views and impressions. So if they wanted to do it in January, that's fine, but they've missed out that key thing. And the sooner they get their stuff on the channel, that sooner it's being discovered. And you generally need at least 4 reviewers to be discovered in terms of getting your opinion on what you want to see.
Like the whole thing of someone needs to hear about you so many times before they remember you.
Well, it's 7 times normally you need to be conscious of it before it kind of sticks in the mind. But normally people, if they want to buy a game or not, if they're not certain, not being a game, anything, whether it be, headset or anything, it's a minimum of 4 online reviews. So I have been helping Jeffrey Engelstein about discussing this. I don't know if he wants to do it on his own or whether I'd be involved. He hasn't really come back to me on that respect. How changed from an influencer point of view. So that's very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, for some of my Kickstarters, I'm at the point now where I can launch something without any reviews and still somehow, like, people do trust me, which is a really nice position to be in. But I do feel like I've always felt like 3 is a good number to aim for, like as a minimum to have, 3 video reviews. I guess if you've got another quote, that extra quote, I guess when you're talking about 4 reviews minimum, it doesn't need to be a big thing. If I had like a short quote from someone that you've heard of, that might mean just as much as a video from someone you haven't, if not more.
So I used to work in sales back in the day, about 20 years ago. And then I know that people at Asmodee, that they have a new marketing manager who's very bullish and does not follow this kind of mantra. And anyway, so the point is, in person, if you sell a hi-fi, so with Richard Sounds when I did with them, if you can sell it to them, on average, people are going to like it so much that they're going to tell, on average, 20 people that will successfully also want to get that. So that's 400 people, basically, they're influencing. So this is pre-influencer days. This is just in person and how much people want to show off what they're discussing because of their word of mouth and groups of friends. So that's how effective it is. But equally, what James Stigmeyer does is he doesn't mind if there's a new reviewer. He doesn't mind if maybe they get a copy and they obviously lost some money in sending it and the cost of it, because that could be a new audience. And that's the thing. Even if I was a publisher and I made a few games, I could choose to have anybody who's maybe watched AmassGames, but equally then it's not growing it. It's keeping it, but not growing it, apart from obviously the word of mouth. So obviously having new audiences is great, but equally, yeah, it's a catch-22 because, okay, do I have 4 reviewers? Do I have 400 reviewers? And it's like, okay, well, let's have a certain amount. And equally on Kickstarter, whatever it might be, how many videos do you really want to see? And I know with the likes of Rado, I'll pretty much never watch his video because I'll know that it's just going to be a positive review. Or equally, you know that if he's reviewed it, it's going to be a good thing. But with any review...
Yeah, because Rado does have a stringent vetting process.
Yeah.
Where they will look at the rules and say, hey, that doesn't really seem right for 2 players, or hey, that feels a little bit too combative for my taste, or hey, I'm not sure this is right for me, for whatever reason. And then,
and that's really good.
After that, then does the thing. Whereas you are just like, yeah, give me the games and I'll tell everyone what I think about that.
Yeah. So they are very good. I have actually rejected up to 40% of games that could be sent to me. So, and that's just because I said, no, it's not ready or it's not interesting. And lots of times it could be actually it's a prototype and they haven't even finished the rules. And I've spent over 60 hours going through, like I've printed off new versions of the rules and I've found over 100 mistakes. And I said, I've wasted 60 hours here. You haven't got a finished game. And they weren't even aware that's not even a process, which again, is why I whittle things out by from a paid perspective, because I know that lots of places, they said, look, we have sent lots, and these are massive companies like Cosmos, we've sent loads of games to people and they've done absolutely nothing in 3 months. And they've literally, to quote someone from Cosmos, said, but we know if we sent you something, you would do it. So they said, we gave it to you, we trust you. Equally, obviously, they said something that's probably been more affecting my mental health than anything has been the fact that they said, unfortunately, we have too many white male reviewers. And I thought, okay, so that's extreme prejudice there in the sense that they can obviously cycle people out. But obviously, that's their perspective. And I completely get from a woke perspective. But equally, I know 40% of the channel are women in terms of how obviously Google uses their algorithm. And that is way above the minimum 20%. So it's interesting how they've chosen that approach. But yeah, they at Rado, I fully get what they're doing too. But yeah, I won't necessarily review anything. It's just, okay, can I see an audience? I've rejected lots of actual paid work. Toys.
Okay, because it's just not in your wheelhouse. Because it's interesting with toys, there is such a bigger budget for stuff like that, and it's a route that you have to choose whether you want to go down that path or not. So it's clearly still a passion for you. I mean, you're clearly not all about the money. It's about the games that you have some interest in. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. So I know here's whether it be talking about places on holiday or films to watch and experience something when we get into that. So, a Cthulhu game, I wouldn't be that interested typically. A Euro game I might be quite interested in. Something which has a lot of luck, I might not be very interested in, but it does vary. So, but equally, I've just been shocked at the discovery. It can be, I had no idea. Even Yogi, any games, I had no idea that, wow, that's a really good game, and that's something to try them out and see, and therefore, other people experience it. I mentioned before about cartographers. I received that months before anyone even heard about it. And all right, it's a game called Cartographers. Let's try it. Wow, this is it's like top 3 flipping right game for me. And it's amazing how yeah, that's why you have influencers, because you have no idea. So then you show it to people and then go, wow, yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, you have to be willing for stuff to surprise you. And some of those games are just that brilliant. And talking
Yeah.
about brilliant things, is there something, maybe overlooked that we might all have in our lives that you would like to give a shout out to? Brilliant thing, brilliant thing. What's a little thing which is brilliant?
Well, a brilliant game that's it
No,
is
like
out there.
something that's, in everyone's life. Like, I'm going to come out and say, just looking behind you, windows. Windows
Brilliant is
are a brilliant
great.
thing.
I think microwaves are brilliant things. Although the
Okay,
mince
let's
pies
go
are pretty
microwaves. I don't have a microwave, but why are microwaves brilliant?
just because they can heat things up quickly. Well, equally, mince pies, I'm realizing how good they are in an oven. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the oven does definitely have that extra potential for crispiness, but yeah, if you want to reheat something, microwave, absolutely chuck it in for a couple of minutes. It's the way to go, and it's basically instant fast food. It's amazing.
Yeah. Apart from
Whereas,
mince pies, 10 seconds. Burn your mouth otherwise.
yeah, otherwise the middle can get a bit too much.
Yeah. And these weren't crispy, actually, these mince pies, but they were very good. Yeah. One Christmas I had 83. So, yeah.
83 mince pies over one winter.
Yeah. And then you didn't want to sit in the car with me on that particular year, so, as my late grandmother found out. So, yeah.
Wow. You have a very interesting style of eating where I've just seen you saying, okay, this is what I'm having for each day, and you're very, I don't know if particular is the right word about your food.
No, it's
But
a gullible thing. So you might recall how shocked. I mean, we haven't roommated really at, for example, the Birmingham hostel, but everyone else is saying, "Wow, Simon organises stuff all in advance, and the next morning, bam, he's ready to go." But it's like, well, there's limited space. Everyone's trying to find something. At least I know what I've got, and I don't have to stress about it for the next day. So yeah, it's good to be ready. Yeah, each day I have green tea every morning, first thing, because from a simulation point of view, it's the healthiest thing to have. My black tea I won't have until like 10 a.m. because again, the optimum time to have caffeine is around that. And then I have my Colombian coffee. It's the healthiest form of coffee. I have around 11 a.m. So there's that, and then porridge in between, aside from the dairy stuff. So yeah, that's mornings.
yeah, and I was talking yesterday about routines and the benefits of building in routines to make sure you have the healthy stuff. I mean, like this morning, I got up, I've had my shower, I've had a few pills that I've started going into again because, yeah, someone reminded me, hey, why don't you take some vitamin D and vitamin B to make sure it might improve your mood? And I thought, well, I got some when I was on my potato diet, but I hadn't taken them for a few months. So that's something I've done, like brush my teeth, and I've got my daily effervescent vitamins in the water. And so it's having these little routines. And I know when I go to a convention, I have a specific bag with what I'm wearing each day, because that way I don't have to think about it. And it feels like it's a similar thing for you where you just have your food because you want to be exactly have your routine so you don't have to think about it.
Oh, I always vary what I do have, but crucially, there are some known things. So I don't take
Well,
vitamin
I
tab.
vary what I wear each day.
Yeah. So, well, actually, Mark Zuckerberg only wears a grey T-shirt and said that they do that because it simplifies the mind and actually is known to reduce stress. But yeah, vitamin D I don't take. Well, vitamin B I don't take because I take Marmite, so then I don't need vitamin B tablets. I don't take vitamin D tablets because I have mackerel tinned once a week. But if I do take it, I make sure that it's not either side of 2 hours of having fibre. Otherwise, you absorb all of that vitamin D and then you won't assimilate it, so you don't get any benefits. And I don't take any effervescent vitamins because I just have a grapefruit and steamed frozen veg. So, yeah.
So let's move on to questionably quick questions. Is the next section? It's not an interrogation. It's just a questionably quick question section. And a quick comment from Elaine who says, I didn't appreciate windows until I stayed in a hotel room in Glasgow without one because I was too cheap to pay the extra fiver for a window. Never again. Yeah,
I think that was appreciated.
if you've got an actual box room, that it depends how much time you spend there. Like if you're just literally going there to fall asleep, then fair enough. But if you're going to spend even like more than an hour of waking time there, each day, then it can become a bit oppressive for sure.
Yes, you
But
had the
yes,
room. But yeah, I did
what
that
is
mate.
sorry? What is your first memory?
Yeah, my first memory would be a warm air heating vent when I was about 2. Now, typically, you don't have any memories until you're 5, supposedly. But yeah, that's the only one I can recall. I was probably crawling, so I might even be under the age of 2. That's that. How about yours, in case you hadn't recalled it, if anyone knew
Oh,
listening?
I've told everyone, and right now it's you in the hot seat. We're already halfway through, and we've still not started talking, so I'm not going to let you distract me. But it
Okay.
involves cats.
Okay.
What's the first game you remember playing?
Yeah, so the first game might be, at least I really enjoyed, was Market Day, which is, I think, 1986 from
Oh,
Ravensburger.
I don't know that one. Tell us about it. How does it play?
So it's a family game. I think it might, I don't know if it's roll and move, but basically you have cutouts of farmyard animals that you need to basically placing back into this grid. Well, not grid. This track that you kind of go around on this board. So Market Space Day. I think it's 1986. And yeah, interesting. There's no famous designers behind it. I can quickly look it up now. But yeah, we spoke about it with my parents yesterday, actually. So yeah,
Oh,
enjoyable.
amazing.
Haven't seen
And
it.
what was the first game that was there a moment or was there a first game that made you think, yeah, I really like these games. I want to really delve into them.
Yeah, so I think a game that kind of really got me into it in a modern way would probably be Zombicide. I think
Okay.
2011, 2000, because for one thing, I played someone's painted copy. So that was one that really I thought I was very impressed by what they did with that game. So I think that would be one example. I was played at the local game store as a 6, I think. Although I think it might have been prior to that, it would be Legends of Andor as well, which ran the similar sort of time. Also, it would be Coup Handle. I think that's definitely the game that I tell everybody got me into board gaming, actually. So I was played it over in Germany. It's a game that both C. Garcia and Tom Vassell have both had a top 100 for many times. And apologies, as I mentioned in advance, I've got a 0.3 megapixel camera because this isn't my parents' place presently. So using an old monitor with a thing on it. But yeah, very enjoyable. It's a bluffing game. It's a bidding game. I've got multiple copies of the game, multiple versions of the game. I showed Tom Vassell and Z over in Germany this year and Mike Delisio because I managed to get another copy of it, which is a promo, which they haven't seen before either.
Ooh.
So yeah, I haven't played my copy yet, but I think I've sleeved it now. So it's, I think, one of the original editions as well. But it was, I think, Spieldejahr's recommended. So it's by Rutger Holtz, and it's been in constant production ever since. So you can find it over in Germany.
Talking about German stuff, I mean, you've been to quite a few spiels. What was the first one you ever went to? And what were your emotions stepping into the big halls?
Yeah, so 2018 would be when I was walking very fast. I was having to be reined back from not walking too fast. I remember seeing you in Hall 4 running around. I didn't speak to you on that occasion, although I didn't speak to you this year either. So, I was right next to you, but you're demoing at 2 o'clock. So yeah, there we go. There's a trend going on there. But yeah, so obviously it's huge. I was helping out a stall.
I mean, everyone's welcome to join in the 2 p.m. event, but if you arrive during the 2 p.m. event and you're not there to jump in, then, you know, I've clearly got no time to talk to you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I had enough things rushing around, as you're aware of as well. So
It's
yeah, that
all
was very
good. I
cool.
mean, I can chat to you in the UK. You're, you know, it's, yeah, we see each other anyway. It's all good.
So yeah, very enjoyable. It's massive. I've got much use now to. I can now get from the far end of Hall, even 7, to the Saal Europa, which is the other end of Hall 3 in a matter of minutes now. I think even as little as 3, I can actually run it and I have to peg it around. It wasn't as busy this year compared to, for example, 2018 when we had like 190,000 people. So I think it might be absolutely bonkers next year, for example. But yeah, it was. It's a fun thing to see new games. You can see some out of print games, and as with many things, you can see something multiple times. And if it's a game that you've picked up, whatever, it actually makes it easier. Very much like to use the guess who, pardon the pun, analogy, which means I don't have to focus on that. I can do something else. But as more and more stalls start to solidify where they stand or are, it
Mm-mm.
means I can now either see them again or see someone differently. So it was the stalls I didn't see in Expo that I spoke to this year, for example.
Yeah, it's definitely a case of the more of these things you get to, the more you'll get to know the people and
Yeah.
everyone involved. What would you say was your highlight of Spiel 2022? Whether
So,
that was a moment with other people or a game you played or whatever.
so I think amongst other things, it would be the meet and play. So I was there for about 4 hours meeting fans and stuff like that. I was one of only 3 from the UK doing it. In fact, I think I was the only one with games. I know Paul Grogan was there. I was just chatting to 5 people of a similar age who were just probably Patreon backers, and that was it. I think they might have had a game, but they didn't chat. But I had 80 plus games out at the very front. I picked my stand. I got there an hour in advance, and yeah, got to be taught a game, and it was very cool. And I'm actually kind of arranging it for UK Games Expo this year, but it's there's a new marketing manager for the UK who's they're fully on board. I met obviously with the founders as well, but they're kind of saying just have your own space in the main gaming area. That's fine, but it might be a bit tricky to try to organise because it seems like pick a time, go there, but it's up to you if people want to be attending. So I might have an article in the magazine, but it might not be as well sorted as over in Germany because they're not prepared to have a spare room for it, like a whole space, partially because that's an extra cost for them, which I think can be used by, some kind of event. So unless people are going to pay to do it, and of course the factor is, are people going to go there or are they going to go there to, see the stands? But with obviously with Spiel, there's no place to do open gaming. Whereas that room kind of became an open gaming space and people really enjoyed it. Like 800 people attended. And you're getting this natural benefit of.
Sorry, did you say 800 people? That's not during your 4 hours. That's over the course of the weekend, right?
No, 800 people in that 4-hour space, that in that one room. And what was effective is you have one influencer, amplifying another influencer. So there's like 30 of us, and we're all just kind of filming each other. So it was very effective. I was on a TikTok thing and other things, so it was really cool. And I made numerous TikToks, starting that up, and my Instagram shorts were very effective, and YouTube shorts. So it was really good.
Wow. Well, that sounds like a massive success. Many congratulations.
Yeah, thanks.
Now, I'd like to ask about your other job. I mean, when you're not doing this, what do you do for money, if I may be so gosh?
So yes, I have been working, I think I mentioned on the last stream with data, although actually we kind of ran out of time, didn't we? We had 3 minutes, under 3 minutes, I think. It just happened, story of my life with other things. So yeah, data is the kind of my sort of day job, but I was working at 3. That was during the expo, I was working there, but they're merging with Vodafone. So unfortunately my job ended in June. So yeah, I've applied for so many jobs, I've interviewed so many places. Even like yesterday or day before yesterday, 75 job applications I put in, but I've had numerous saying, this role's now on hold, this one's been cancelled. So I'm just trying to stay as positive as I can. But obviously, it's, I don't have to be doing this. I'm being very constructive with doing those job applications. But if I go down, say, qualification route, the trouble is you'll then find nobody wants that qualification anymore, as I've typically found. So yeah, it's a tough gig presently, but yeah, as the world economy and the local one, it's something to try and keep my head above water for now about.
Yeah, it is. We are in a recession, and I think that everyone's kind of feeling like, okay, anything that we don't absolutely need right now, we won't pay for, and so it's really hard. I heard that. Yeah, I'm fairly sure this is public, and well, obviously ITB has gone into hibernation basically, and that was one thing. But then Modifius, laid off a lot of people
Yep.
recently, which was quite a shame. And I think that it's not a great situation for lots of people, but I wish you the best finding a job that suits you.
Yeah, thanks.
Back to games. Picture Perfect, was that the last game you played? Or did you finish the evening with something else?
No, that was the only one that we finished with last night. So yes, it won't be played today, but hopefully tomorrow and probably the weekends. But so I had to obviously assemble everything. It's slightly fiddly getting it back in that box, But my rating so far is like a 6.7. So it sounds lowish, but my average rating is a 6.36. Strangely, my expansion rating is also 6.36. So it's very weird. However, 2000 plus, they've actually become the same. It didn't used to be, but now, it's nothing, no bias going on there. But again, sometimes the first play can be really good and then people wane. Equally, something can be low and it improves.
I mean, anything above a 5, I think, is good, which makes sense because you try to self-select. And so if you were to take all the random games, then maybe it would be more like 4.9 or 5, I don't know. But because you actually say no to a bunch of stuff, that's obviously what pushes it above the mean.
You never know, because I could be saying no to something that's really good. But there are a couple of rules issues. So they do show you something which is like a decoration, which doesn't actually come in the game. So that's quite confusing. Online, they do say there's a couple of errata points. And there's another issue whereby it's not clear. Like, I wouldn't have written the rule book for that way, in terms of you have these envelopes with people that want to be sat or positioned in this photograph, but it doesn't actually specify, okay, that person wants these requirements. It looks more vague than that. So it's a difficult first teach that way. So that's a shame. But that's what you can get. Sometimes that first play is difficult to get across.
Makes, perfect sense. So the final question I'd like to ask you a couple of very quick things. Meeples or minis?
Meeples, yes. So no miniatures typically. I go for meeples. Although I'm a massive stickler, I don't like people when I watched a videos do an obsession and they said, "Oh right, and now you get your meeples," and I wouldn't call them meeples. I call them pawns, because a meeple is my people. It's a plural for a start, so it almost should be meeple or mini or minis, I guess. And lots of people, they overuse the word meeple, whether it be a YouTube channel or anything like that, which I completely get. But sometimes, all these rule
When I
books.
say meeples, I am talking about anything that is a two-dimensional shape, cut out of wood, extruded. Whether that is the traditional meeple shape or whether it is something a little bit more fancy, like maybe someone holding a sword. Any silhouette which has been extruded. That's what I'm personally calling.
Okay, yeah. If you meant literally wood or plastic, I'll go for wood as well. But yeah.
I guess it's not just... Yeah, I guess you can never really get the 3D thing. I guess that's what I'm... Maybe that would be a better way of phrasing that question. You're right. Elaine wants to know, what about standees?
Yeah, so obviously Picture Perfect has them. Andor has them. Obviously Gloomhaven went the Andor route with standees. They're fine. Typically, obviously, they can get even one of them, Picture Perfect ones, has got crushed. And the annoying thing is, only if you want to put everything back in the box, the issue is with the standees on, it's a bit fiddly. Whereas if you take them off and on again, that's a problem. Standees are fine, but you might have the issue whereby when I did my Andor playthrough, you can tell by the width of the cardboard cutouts that it's fine. But it depends on what it is. Obviously, thematically, they can look really good. But equally, I think a different way of actually re-asking that question is a meeple, sometimes either printed on cover. I know the latest Everdell, you can have stickers. I think most people are saying it's better with the stickers.
Or indeed, you can have a bit of colouring directly on it, like in Root.
Yeah. But then again, some miniature games, obviously coming back to Zombicide, with those coloured ones, they were
you
really
have
good.
to make the choice. How would you rank them?
So typically, I like my meeples. I like, whether it be games like Village or something like that, or obviously Carcassonne. I could even see Carcassonne played with miniature, obviously plastic sculpts. But I have seen some books on sculpting and how just there's a 700-page book just on like how to get the muscles in the face. So it's extremely expensive to go for minis. So I think that's another way of advocating it. Go for the meeple route. But one of the games I'm looking to make, I think it would look really... I think everybody, if it went on Kickstarter, it would have to be miniatures because it looks so effective. So, yeah.
Well, as always, I'd like to remind people to continue commenting, asking questions, follow. I mean, that's why I do these things live, for the conversation, not just with my lovely guests, but with all of you out there. And if you are commenting after the fact, I do reply to all the respectful comments that I see. But starting down the questions that are scrolling underneath, why did you start down this path? Back before you were a YouTube channel, why did you even start writing those reviews?
So yeah, no, for me, I mainly just wanted to just play games. I think I contacted a retailer when I was arranging events at a pub, and yeah, they said they sent some games, and then I think they were saying, why don't you do reviews? And I was never really interested in doing that. I mean, I have done reviews for other things, but like music journalism and film journalism and stuff, and it was a bit like film journalism. I didn't like doing it because I was going in watching a film, knowing I was having to critique it. Was I'd rather just watch a film. And then someone said, oh, what do you think of it? Oh, blah, blah, blah. I said, all right, now put it into words. And that's an article. That's how I prefer to do it. The same thing with the board game. But the differences with the board game is, well, I guess you buy to go to cinema tickets and getting that for free. Obviously, you can get board games for free or you get them provided. So that's really good too. And in terms of, I guess, how it then went down that path is, yes, I was given a game to then review and then I'd send it off or whatever. But the main thing is when I turned up at conventions, so one company said, oh, look, why don't you do demos for us? So I did. And then at a big event, all these publishers were watching me demo and then seeing that I knew the people that I was demoing to, or people walking past saying, hi, Simon. So for that reason, I then also said, why don't you do Instagram? Why don't you do YouTube? I hadn't even touched Instagram at that point. But I said, all right, I'll try it. And obviously they seem to enjoy it because very flattered that they provided me with more games, etc.
So it sounds like a lot of it is folk asking for it, and you have a few folk who were like, oh, why don't you do this? And so you're like, yeah, maybe I should. Is that...
Yeah.
Do you feel like you are susceptible to peer pressure?
No, well, I said it took 4 years. I wouldn't call that peer pressure. I think that's just, they do say the more someone nags, the more likely people actually are to affect that. So no, I thought, you know what? I was really curious about it. Actually, was again, I love data, as you know. So that's kind of what my day job's going to be. And I was very keen to see. Okay, so where are people watching this? What are they watching? What do they watch next? And that's when other gamers said, "Oh wow, yeah, you must really love the data." So it's fascinating to see, what people are discovering because that helped me discover more stuff. It can actually help other people say, "Okay, what else should I be either making or discovering or playing?" And it's a chance, for me to try new games. So that's been really, really fascinating.
And what makes you want to continue and keep doing it? Do you keep finding joy here?
Yeah, so I mean, definitely. I said I don't have to do. I could stop today and not do any more videos, but I definitely could. It's like,
So you're saying it's not an addiction. You could totally stop.
Yeah, so when I choose to do a video, I don't go every day. It's like, as I think I mentioned before, I'll do a few in a day maybe. And, all right, let's do that. And I used to do one video a week, and now it's just got so much stuff that, all right, again, I'll do a dice listening video to see how far dice roll and whether you need a dice tray. And people seem to like it enough. I can do polls saying, do you really want to watch it? I only get 70 views or something. But because no, we really want to see it. So whoever the audience is, I think it's still interesting. And people go, wow, it's more discoverability. Because again, if you stick that on a Board Game Geek page, people go, what on earth is this? And then it might be good or bad reaction, but it's like, well, if someone likes it, they can check out the other 70 plus die rolls which have occurred. And it's a chance to it's a good excuse for me to open games because I've got enough games I haven't opened. So it's a chance for me to just plow through them, such as that new You're Bluffing I haven't opened from 2018.
I mean, yeah, I'd like to actually ask about that game because I wasn't aware you had a copy or anything. This wasn't planned, but yeah, after Cosmos is saying, well, if we send you something, you will do something with it. What happened with You're Bluffing? Was that not something that was sent by the publisher?
No, so You're Bluffing came out in 1985. And that is with Ravensburger, who now do want to work for me, but the person at Ravensburger is very new. I don't think they've even got an Instagram presence. She's never heard of You're Bluffing. They only have a very few games in the UK. So I've played it over in Germany. I've played multiple editions of it. In fact, I was notified that there was a new version. Someone said, oh, I know you like You're Bluffing. There's a version on a Kickstarter. And I said, whoa, they've completely plagiarized this. It's the same game. They've just changed the art. So I had that game pulled from Kickstarter and I told Ravensburger. They didn't do anything about it with me. They since relaunched their game and I got nothing out of it. But yeah, it's a top 4 game for me. Everyone I've played it with loved it. And I think even Tom Vassell agrees it's too long. You need to play the variant where you're bidding for 2 items, not one. Otherwise, it overstays its spectrum.
You're bluffing. I was interested in the fact that you said, maybe I got this wrong, but did you say you had it in 2018 and you hadn't managed to make a video with it yet?
So I have got a new version. So I have got Bidder Up, which is the American name for it, which is the board game version of the card game. So basically, it's you're bluffing the board game, I guess you could call it. So I do have that, but I haven't opened that. So that was what my mother-in-law, in-laws got me for Christmas that year. I just haven't got around to playing it. And I've got the German edition, which is completely language independent.
Okay, and so it's because it was a Christmas present by family that. And so what we're learning from this is no one should buy Simon Lavender board games for presents. Simon's already got way enough.
Well, I won't sell them because they won't get played. But no, it's obviously I'd rather play something that's. I've got lots of games unopened, but if someone sends me a game, I'm more likely to have it further up that tree of what I'm going to play, because you have a point whereby it's either out of print, so it's going to be quite interesting, or it's going to be something that's brand new, and obviously I could be the first person to get a video out, and that does occur. But equally, I might think, do you know what? I just fancy playing this. I generally ask other people, what do you want me to play? What should I teach you? And that's a good way, because at least they're interested.
Elaine wants to ask how the pandemic affected the way you play and review games.
So I had, at the beginning of the pandemic, 60 games arrived in one day from over in the States. Just loads of games and stuff turned up. And I was still meeting people when it wasn't locked down. And when it was, you could meet but not inside. We were playing, someone came in from Cardiff. She moved to London, that's Cardiff. We ended up playing in the snow, it was snowing. And we were playing in the garden, playing Knock Mal. So we're playing a roll and write and sort of getting wet and smeary with all the snow. So yes, I had a chance to play some legacy games, which was really good. So that was fantastic to play during lockdown. And in terms of playing and reviewing them, yes, it's been. I haven't played at any pubs. So I don't think at all once since lockdown, maybe once. And that's COVID is still a risk. So actually, more cliquey groups, which is actually not a problem whatsoever, because you actually get to experience more of these players. I had a chance to play, get to know these people more and stuff. Been invited to some more gaming sessions between Christmas and New Year's. So it hasn't affected me in a negative way. Like I said, daily videos as well, or twice daily. So
it sounds like it's all about building up a small group of people who you trust, rather than playing things in a truly public setting, essentially.
So not necessarily. I mean, pre-lockdown, it was like 2,500 people I'd play with. Again, I love the players, everyone I play with. And the total amount of people I've played with, we discussed this briefly in a Facebook group, that my H index, so that's the amount of games I've played a certain amount of times, is 45. So I played 45 games 45 times. My P index, which is my player index, so how many people have I played a certain amount of times with, is also now 45. So I played 45 games with 45 people, or 45 different games with 45 different people. So
with at least 45 people each.
Yeah, at least one person I've played 45 games with, and there's 45 people I've played, 45 games with. So, and the same game. Well, it's hard to articulate, but I think if that doesn't make sense, please let me know. But yeah. So, but if it's with Bears, I've played 45 different games with Bears, and I can say that with 45 other people in total. For example, I haven't played that amount of Bears, but I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I
can check, probably about 13, but I don't know.
Would you be able to find out? I'm going to guess, guess 10. Everyone in the chat, guess higher or lower. Do you think that I've played more or fewer than 10 games with Simon? I mean, we've definitely played a whole bunch of my games, but
that's weird. So you're saying 4 here? Oh, okay, that's weird. What? So actually, we've hardly played many. So this doesn't sound right. It says game about stuffing balloons. That's the only one we've played.
Yeah, we've played a lot of stuff kind of being next to each other, but I'm not sure we've played. Yeah.
Stuffing balloons, that's the one.
What? Just that one thing 4 times?
Supposedly 4 times, okay. Yeah.
Oh, that must have been on the Wednesday before you.
Yes, it was the Wednesday at the buffet.
Yes,
I recommend it.
It just shows how badly our minds work, because I was thinking it would be less than 10. Then he said 13, so then I went to 10. We just can't remember. And there
That's
you've
why I
got
have data to prove it.
So I want to ask, like, how do you find the time? And I want to ask a little bit about time management. And yeah, do you feel like you're giving these? You do have to rush through these games a lot. I mean, it's not like you can play these as much as you'd want or spend hours and hours on a 10-minute game. But yeah, how do you find the time and how do you make sure that all of this fits into your schedule?
So ultimately, it's around what people want to play. It's around the utility. So if I'm with a group of people for a day or whatever, I say, who wants to play this? Or what do we want to play? Do you want to play this? And I fully understand they might not want to play Picture Perfect 6 times in a row. One time is probably enough for at least a few days, if not a week or something, or more than that. Equally, they might want to come and play it tomorrow. But if it is, it's probably not all of them. Again, no game is for everyone. And in that instance, I'm sure only one person of 3 might want to play it again. Who knows? Or you're going to find your groups out. Or there are some people who can't get in the game because there's not enough player counts. So in terms of time management initially, so exercise, I tend to exercise at home or I get out and walk for half an hour or something. So that's kind of getting my cardio and strengthening or whatever. So that's can be condensed very strongly. I was thought about this. I get other people to maybe do the cooking or something, which gives me some time back as well. And also I've cut back on like TV and whatever else. So I've obviously all that film reviews, 5,900 plus. I've kind of whittled that back to do more board game stuff, but it obviously is all in harmony. So and as for weekends, so this weekend again, it's going to be at least about 26 hours gaming, and the same tomorrow evening, it'll be another 6 hours of gaming. So all that's planned. More gaming planned on Wednesday from 7 p.m. So lots of other things lined up. So everything's kind of like a golfer. I say I plan things 8 months in advance, so I tend to have a good idea of. I want to know when something's going to kick in. I've messaged other people up tonight, so that might be from 7 p.m.
And how many groups would you say you regularly play with? I mean, how many people are there?
So that's varied since lockdown, but pre-lockdown, I was in 83 different WhatsApp board game groups. So that got a bit too much. I've always wanted a kind of an out as to how I can streamline that better. But the various groups, so pre-lockdown, I was arranging groups at 7 different pubs in the week. So that's obviously 7 different events. And in terms of
one for each day.
One for each day, yeah. And as for other things, and of course that's like during whichever hours those are on, but then I might have time either side of that as well. In terms of how many times do I play a game? Well, as you know, I'm one of the highest for the H index in the world. I think I'm definitely in the top 7. So yes, I do play games more typically on average than anyone else. So if you
your favorite 45 or your favorite 100, you might have played a lot. But I mean, if you pick a random game on a random review, I think it's the nature of all reviewers that there's rarely
1 or 3 games.
Yeah. You won't typically get to play it that much. It's almost more like hey, here's my first impressions of it, if we're going to be honest.
Yeah, but with even my top 10 games of all time, I haven't played many of them more than 50 times. And that is a huge amount for anyone anyway, but even maybe 20 times. But then when I consider about which games I have played, I've looked on Board Game Geek and see who's got the most plays. And there are numerous games I'm either number 1 or on the front page of. I do know there are some games whereby there's a solo mode and there's one guy who's played a game 1,000 plus times. And there's a few people like that. And that's absolutely fine. It's just not for me. But if a game is replayable, I will play it more times or I'll suggest it. So tomorrow I'm going to have at least 6 games played. And those games will be in my mind in terms of rote, ready to then teach.
Presumably, it sounds like you crave novelty, and that's one of the things that keeps you going. That you do enjoy trying everything out there.
Well, that is where the addiction, opioids and stuff. They say, oh no, one more hit. But there are many board gamers out there who want to keep trying new games. And I think that's a little destructive, but it does tell us a lot about actually there's no perfect board game. And whilst I could say no, I very much like the Holy Grail moment whereby I know some people who've got 100 plus games, but low 100s. I've played all but 7 of their games now. And I even have spreadsheets for various people. I haven't played those few games. Once I've played them, I'm at a really great point because like I said, do you know what? Once I've played all your games, I can now say, should we play that game? And that's really good because now they know, it has a lot of credibility about that is a good game for them, which I think it's important to know because everybody, if they have however many games, 30, 50, whatever, they're naturally going to have them ranked, or someone's going to say, well, I don't like that one, but I'll play that. Because they won't have something that no one's going to like, and that's the whole point. And if they find no one is playing one of their games, then they can sell it if they want to, because the industry is very positive like that.
You replay the things that everyone's enjoying, and you are mindful of the people around the table. Speaking of being mindful around the table, I just wanted to ask quickly, when you go to your clubs and you're saying, hey, let's play this or this or this, presumably you've read all the rules ahead of time, or...
Absolutely. That's so with Picture Perfect, there's no solo mode. So yes, it had to be, someone had to break that duck. But I know at times when I've been to the pubs and someone's brought Barrage and someone brought something else, so who wants to play this? And I was really keen to play them, but they said it's their first play, and they were there for 3 hours plus, or whatever it was, and then the pub closed, then it finished. So I've got a very strong opinion on, not a strong opinion, I've got a strong belief I want to play it again, but equally, that game will never turn up again at the pub, as it never did. So someone brought something different. And each time they bring different games, and it's because they crave, it's very much like a catwalk sometimes. People turn up going, I've got this game, who wants to play this? And then you're trying to compete with other people. For a long time, I didn't bring games because so many people brought other games. But now it's pretty much wherever I bring games, there's so many new people again since lockdown that at pub events, they don't bring games. 20 plus people are waiting for someone to turn up with a game. But I don't tend to play and bring I bring games, multiple games, but I don't tend to give games for other people to play, partially because they've come back missing, these partially or otherwise, or they just ditch it on a table, not realizing that's a very valuable thing. And I've seen games like Pillars of the Earth and stuff like this, whereby some drunken people are like, oh, what the hell's this? Because some other groups and gamers who are new gamers, they don't understand the etiquette, and they just left it there. And other people like bending the board the wrong way around and stuff. And I've had a Sherlock Holmes game, and they thought, I think even the staff thought a piece was the menu. So I've learned a lot. I learned a lot of lessons from that. If you want to play a game, I've got this game. But I also make sure if I bring 2 games, it's better than bringing 10. Because if you only have 2, well, you have a choice of 2. It's easy to make a decision on. I might then bring out another game in my back pocket, but it just keeps people focused.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Before we wrap up, I would like to ask quickly for other people who are wanting to do media, whether that's myself doing interviews or people who are wanting to demonstration for other publishers, or indeed publishers who are wanting to work with you. What tips and advice would you have for these 3 different parties?
Okay, so I'll start with Media Folk. Well, it's kind of similar, but Media Folk is... well, everyone's different style. So I happened to pick a style, and I wanted to stick to that from day one. So I'm the only person who really does know how to set up, play, and review. But yeah, like I said, I don't do toys necessarily. I could have got good money, very good money for doing that. I probably still could. I don't think it would necessarily alienate people. They're just not going to watch it. So in hindsight, maybe I shouldn't have done that. But other people are just creating stuff. In terms of quality, I've gone for a kind of a RADA approach, which isn't high quality, but it's got traction. I've got lots of reviews, people saying, "Oh no, great! You actually, you're not being jokey. You're straight to the point." And well, I'm joking in my spare time. It's hard to do comedy on stage, and sometimes I think there's some jump the shark moments going on with that, with imitating them or going down that path. So I've done that. As from a demonstrator point of view. Know your rules, obviously. I've seen lots of times people make mistakes. Even big name reviewers, they've made a number of mistakes, and they say, oh, well, it's just an review. But, people aren't necessarily aware that isn't how you play the game. But I'm trying to make sure it's like a recipe when I do it. And as for publishers, lots of publishers have done repeat stuff. On average, most publishers get at least 4,500 impressions. They're all visibly aware of it. As I say, once you've seen that 7 times, they're now going to start thinking about, okay, now I want to be buying it, or I now want to know more. So that's a great level of engagement.
That's some great chat. Thank you so much for coming along. And let me move over to something that you could ask me. I've asked you lots of stuff. Is there anything that you would like to ask as the question of the day? Question of the day. Here's a little question before we go on our way. Question of the day.
Cardstock. So I've asked before about this. Have you ever thought about, a certain cardstock? You go for a certain thickness, a certain density. Has there any reason why you've picked a certain one? I'm guessing you could pay a bit less, make it cheaper.
For the busy bargain bags, I've gone with the cheapest thing that works, basically. I really like linen finish, but unless you're doing something on a massive scale, which I haven't done since 2019, then you can't get linen finish if you're just doing small print on demand things, which has been what I've been up to recently. But my favorite cardstock is definitely having a bit of a texture, having about 300 GSM, maybe black core, blue core, it doesn't really matter, and linen finish.
Cool. So black core and blue core is used by some publishers, or is it now fairly universal in terms of that terminology?
I mean, the thing is, depending on the manufacturer, what those things actually mean is different from manufacturer to manufacturer. So sometimes there's a rank that goes up in quality, but then if you look at a different manufacturer, it might be a different ranking. And white core's always the one that's going to let the most light in. So it's like, yeah, there's you're almost
Ivory.
as what. But then grey core's normally in the middle, black core or blue core are normally at the top. But I do like good quality cards, and I would like card stock that. I mean, I've got a copy of the L deck, Wibble Plus Plus Deluxe, which has been played thousands and thousands of times. I don't know how many times, but I know that at one convention alone, it got played like I think yeah, it was just that one game that I was playing and at Spiel, and I think there were like 200 plus times it was played Grabble and about 200 times we played Wibble. And these are games where you're grabbing the cards and you're bending them, and it's still, sure, it looks a little bit dirty on the sides. And I've kind of retired it from conventions, but it's still looking good. And so if you played it under normal circumstances, not at a convention, but like how long would it take you to play 1,000 times of a game? And so the fact that they've held up is, in my opinion, it adds ammunition to me saying, no, don't bother putting stuff in sleeves. You don't need to do that. It's just a waste of time. Let's just have good quality cards. And if your cards end up getting wasted, you've probably got enough value that you can buy another deck. But yeah, that's an interesting question. Let's move on to over to you. What you're up to? You can share Boxley if you want to. Personally, I am going to be heading off, and I've got going to meet Camden Games, who are based in Camden, as their name might suggest, which is really exciting. It's going to be the first time I've gone to their office. We're going to trade a bit of time with each other. I'll be trying some of their new stuff. They'll be giving some feedback on my stuff. So I'm looking forward to that, and I'm hoping it can become a regular occurrence because I do love working with people, and that's something that I don't get enough of unless I sort of build it into a schedule, if you know what I mean. So that's a big thing, and hopefully a bit of dancing in the evening. What are you up to, Simon?
So you're heading off into town to have a wander in town, and double check what's going on with gaming later. Maybe do some thumbnails and bits and bobs. So yeah, a few things. I've got a few other board game related books and things to kind of read on of that as well. So
that sounds lovely. And I guess this is the point where I recap and wrap up before we finish up. We talked about congratulations, having 25,000 hours of views, playing picture perfect, the notion of, thinking about the demographic of the people that you're working with, emailing, arranging stuff, the idea of uncertainty, having for online reviews, reaching out to new audiences as a publisher. That's kind of the number of opinions you want, even if it's not a whole review, at least having that as a quote from someone. And if you send Simon Lavender something, Simon Lavender will do it, as said by Tim's and Cosmos. We talked about vitamins and routines and food, heating vent, playing Market Day, and then more recently being infatuated with Zombicide, Legends of Andor. We talked about going to Spiel in 2018, getting to know so many people, being asked to do things, and over the course of so many years, realizing, hey, there might be an audience, and thinking that it might actually be worth doing these things. The meet and play that happened a few months ago, doing work in data for 3 and Vodafone, and just generally being around folk. Batter up, the pandemic and how that's affected our gaming groups, addiction with the cults of the new, and having to always do things. Talking about ruined games and people who don't understand them and mistake an instruction booklet for the menu and presumably. And we talked about for media people, find your voice. I mean, in Simon's case, it's like low effort. And in my case as well, I do these things and I don't obviously don't do any editing. That's part of the joy of a live stream. But getting straight to the point and thinking about the content you do, for a demonstrator knowing the rules, and for a publisher being mindful that you do have to get so many impressions out there. Someone does have to see your thing maybe 7 times. Now, at this point, if you want to check me out, I am obviously Stuff by Bez in all of the places. You can check out stuffbybez.com/streams for what's up to in the next few days. And Simon, where would you like to be found?
Yeah, so if you search into whichever search provider you use, type in AmassGames, that pretty much brings up everything. So if you do go through to YouTube, there's loads of links off there. There's Linktree as well, AmassGames. So yeah, search the word AmassGames, all one word, and hundreds of results I think will come up there. So lots of ways to find me there.
So please share, spread the word, and thank you very much, everyone, for being part of this. Thank you, Simon, for being a lovely guest. And for now, the only thing left to say is, of course, bye, 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 bye. This is goodbye song. Bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, 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 bye. This is the end of the show. Bye, 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 bye. And now it's time to go. Bye, 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 bye. This is goodbye song. Bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, 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 bye. This is the end of the show. Bye, 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 bye. And now it's time to go. Bye bye, everyone. Bye bye, Elaine. Bye bye, Simon.
Bye. Bye.